Good morning. Well, today is the first day of June 2020. And today I want to look at James chapter 3. Now, James was the Lord's brother, or his half-brother. Jesus' brothers didn't believe in him until after the resurrection. But James then became leader, or maybe the pastor of the church in Jerusalem. The book of James that he wrote is not a book about theology. It is a book about practical religion, about where the rubber meets the road. This is how Christians are supposed to live. Now, in James chapter 3 is about the tongue. He tells us that, first of all, he says, bridles or bits are put in a horse's mouth. Now, a bit compared to the size of a horse is very little. But he says with a small bit, you can control the whole horse. Then he says a rudder or a helm is a very small part of a ship, but it turns the whole ship around. And he says the tongue is that way. Compared to the size of our body, the tongue is tiny, but he says it's very powerful. He says a tongue can set on a fire ablaze. He goes on to say that the tongue can either bless or curse. That is, it can either encourage or it can discourage. It can either build up or it can tear down. I'm reminded of a time I was in a supermarket and a young lady passed the end of the aisle that I was on, and she walked over into the next aisle where I couldn't see her anymore. Obviously, her mother had sent her in some other part of the store to pick up some item. Then I heard her mother say, so that all the store could hear, "You are so dumb, you can't do anything right." There's an old saying, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can never hurt me." That is absolutely not true. I'm sure that young lady, even today, carries those words with her. I'm sure that changed, and I'm sure that's not the only time she heard that, but that changed her entire life. She'll carry that with her to her grave. So we need to be careful about our words. We need to use our words to build up, not tear down. We need to use our words to encourage, not discourage. James said that these things ought not to be. And by the way, in the first part of this chapter, he says, brethren. So this was directed toward believers, not unbelievers. So he says to believers, you ought not to act this way. You ought not to use your tongue to discourage and to tear down people. You ought to use your tongue to build up people. So today, let's you and I decide that we're going to use our tongue today for good, to build someone up, to encourage someone, not tear them down, not make them look bad, but let's use our tongues for good today. Pray God blessings on you today. I will see you in the morning.